Brace for impact. Brace for... The warning cut off as the first plasma beam slammed into the starboard hull. Sparks showered across the cockpit, illuminating the pilots' faces with violent flashes. Captain Mara Jensen's hands clenched the controls, knuckles white. Her squadron of 12 human fighters, Squadron 42, was surrounded. Dozens of alien warships, black as void itself and bristling with weapons, cut through the darkness like jagged teeth. "Jensen, the Orion is taking heavy fire." Lieutenant Kale's voice was tight, almost breaking. The comms crackled, drowned by the roar of explosions and the hiss of venting air. Mara didn't answer. She had no time for words. Her eyes tracked multiple targets at once. A swarm of sleek alien fighters lunged from the port flank. She flicked a switch, sending a flare of countermeasures, then rolled her ship into a dive, narrowly avoiding a collision with a cruiser. "Formation Alpha. Stick together!" she barked. But cohesion was a luxury now. Ships spun and darted like meteors in chaos, every pilot a heartbeat away from annihilation. Somewhere deep in her mind, a small, cold thought screamed, "This is it. This is the fight we either win or die in." Squadron 42 had trained for years for scenarios like this. Simulations, drills, tactical exercises. They had all pointed to one truth. Humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and underestimated. And yet here they were, eyes burning with defiance against a galaxy that thought them fragile. "Target that lead cruiser."
"Kel Vega on me!"
Mara shouted. Her squadron tightened around her, blades of human ingenuity poised to strike. The alien ship opened fire, and a brilliant flash tore through the darkness. Mara's ship shook violently, alarm screaming. Kale's voice came over again, steadier now. "We're not going down without a fight. Let's show them what humanity's made of." Something in that tone, hope, grit, stubborn courage, snapped Mara out of the panic. She drew a deep breath. The void was merciless, but humans were fiercer. The first counterstrike was a blur of motion. Squadron 42 carved through the alien fighters with precision and ferocity, weaving through beams of energy like dancers in a deadly ballet. One by one, the smaller ships fell, spiraling into the black. But the cruisers were another story. Thick armored shells glimmered under energy fire, practically immune to the humans' light cannons. "Fall back?" someone yelled. "No!" Mara cut in, voice hard, cold. We fight. We fight together." "That's what we do!" She activated the ship's experimental railgun, a weapon humans had been developing in secret for over a decade. The ship vibrated as the cannon charged. A single shot could pierce the thick hull of the alien cruiser, but only once. "Precision mattered. Locking on," Mara whispered. Time slowed as the crosshairs hovered over the largest cruiser. Around her, explosions rattled the formation. Her heart hammered in her chest like a war drum. "If we miss, it's over," a sudden alarm screamed in her ear. A fighter from her left flank took a direct hit. Kale's voice calm but tense. "Go, Mara. Make it count." She pressed the trigger. The railgun's energy surged, a white-hot streak across the void. The beam struck the cruiser's hull. A terrible groan of metal echoed across the comms. Sparks, flames, and debris erupted. The cruiser shuddered violently, systems failing. Mara's mouth opened to scream in triumph, but before she could, another swarm of fighters came from the rear. They were relentless, endless. The battle was far from over. And somewhere deep in the black, a whisper of realization came to Mara. Humanity hadn't just entered the fight. They had just announced they were here to rule the skies. The void around them was alive with fire. Sparks danced across the shattered remains of alien fighters, the wreckage floating like eerie ghosts in the endless black. Mara Jensen's hands were raw from gripping the controls, sweat mixing with the fine grit that the venting air had blown across her visor. "Status," she barked over the comms. "2 ships down, shields at 40%. Kale's voice crackled, tense. "We're holding, barely." Vega's ship spun past, narrowly dodging a plasma volley. "Captain, the cruiser's deploying drones." Mara's stomach dropped. She had feared this. The aliens' tactics were brutal and methodical. Drones swarmed like locusts, small but fast, each one capable of tearing a human fighter to shreds if it got close. "Alpha formation, defensive spread," Mara ordered. Her squadron tightened around her, engines flaring. The human fighters moved with precise, fluid coordination, a dance honed through years of drills. Every pilot knew the stakes. One wrong move and they would vanish into the cold silence of space. The drones attacked in waves. Mara fired her cannons, blasting them into fragments. One hit too close. Kyle's ship shuddered violently, his visor cracking from the impact. "I'm good," he gritted out, voice strained, but the fear was palpable. Even in the chaos, Mara couldn't let the doubt creep in. Humans weren't just surviving, they were adapting. The alien ships had numbers, but humans had creativity, instinct, and sheer stubbornness. "Listen up," Mara's voice cut through the comms. "We're going to split their formation. Kale, you take the left flank. Vega, right? I'll go for the cruiser's main weapons array. Stick to the plan and we take the fight to them." Her squadron responded with sharp, determined acknowledgement. They trusted her, not blindly, but because she had earned it over years of missions and near-impossible victories. Mara's fighter streaked toward the cruiser, weaving through a storm of plasma bolts. The main array glowed like a heartbeat in the alien behemoth's hull. She lined up the shot, feeling the railgun hum under her fingers. "On my mark," she whispered. Her hands shook, not from fear but from adrenaline, from the awareness that one precise shot could cripple the enemy's firepower and turn the tide of this battle. Suddenly, a drone slammed into her wing. Warning lights flashed. The cockpit rocked violently. "Damn it!" Mara hissed, twisting to shake it off. Her reflexes, honed over thousands of hours in simulators and training missions, kept her alive. Kyle and Vega's flanks were already engaged. Explosions lit the darkness as human pilots tore through enemy fighters, weaving through clouds of debris. Vega's voice rang out, tense but triumphant. "We're holding them." "Keep pushing." Mara pressed forward, ignoring the pain in her hands. The cruiser loomed ahead, massive and terrifying. The railgun's targeting computer locked onto the array. She fired. The beam hit, a white-hot lance piercing the alien hull. The cruiser shook violently, systems sparking and failing. Mara's heart leapt. One strike had cut a chunk out of the enemy's firepower. But victory was fleeting. From the shadows, a second, even larger fleet appeared, moving like a dark tide across the stars. Mara's stomach sank. This was bigger than they had expected. Kale's voice came through, tight with fear. They weren't kidding. It's a full-scale invasion fleet, and they're massive." Mara's mind raced. Retreat was an option, but humans didn't flee. Not when there was a chance to strike a blow, not when the stakes were this high. "Listen, Squadron," she said, voice rising over the din of battle. "We're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting for humanity. For every world that looks up at the stars and hopes we're not alone. We are the storm they didn't expect." The squadron's response was instantaneous. Voices over the comms, fierce and unyielding. "Let's show them." "For humanity. We'll burn their skies." Mara clenched her teeth, eyes burning with determination. The battle had only just begun. The odds were astronomical, the danger overwhelming. But for the first time she felt the surge of possibility. Humans were not just pilots. They were warriors of ingenuity, courage, and unbreakable will. And the century's biggest spacefight had only just begun. Somewhere in the void, a voice whispered through the comms, almost reverent. "Humans. They're not like anything we've faced before." Mara smiled grimly. "They haven't even seen the worst of us yet." The stars blinked out one by one. Captain Mara Vale watched from the bridge as the tactical display bloomed with red. "That's not a formation," she said softly. "That's an invasion." Her voice cut through the hum of the carrier Vanguard's engines. Around her, the crew of Squadron 42 tightened their grips on consoles and armrests. Outside, the void rippled with gravitational noise as thousands of alien warforms folded in from dark space, serpentine hulls glinting like knives under dying suns. "Holy stars," whispered Lieutenant Ashran, the youngest pilot. "That's the entire Threx Dominion fleet." "Correction," said Commander Idris Chen, cool as vacuum. "That's half of it." The hollow screen expanded, miles-wide projections of the battlefield. Human fleets flickered blue, scattered and under strength. The Threx ships filled the void, moving like a tide. "Fleet Command says we hold this line," Idris said. "No fallback," Mara smirked grimly. "Of course they do. Humans never run until there's no one left to bury." The Threx didn't fight like humans. They didn't communicate, didn't posture, didn't even seem to think the same way. Their ships grew, literally, grown from bioengineered hulls and living neural cores that pulsed with strange light. The bridge shuddered as another wave folded into range. The deck plates hummed under Mara's boots. She felt the vibration deep in her chest like a second heartbeat. "Ready the 42nd," she said. Idris tapped a hollow sequence. Dozens of hangar bays lit up along the carrier's spine. Fighters powered on. Sleek, silver-bodied interceptors with curved wings and holographic canopies that shimmered like mercury. Pilots ran through corridors, magnetic boots clanging, helmets under their arms. Ren stood beside his fighter, the Zephyr. The deck lights reflected off his visor, making his eyes glow blue. He exhaled, watching his breath fog the glass. Around him, mechanics sealed hulls and loaded coil guns with tungsten slugs. "Think they'll notice if I'm scared?" he asked the pilot beside him, a tall woman with scars under her jaw. Lieutenant Nara Ives smiled thinly. "They'll notice if you're dead. So don't be." A klaxon wailed overhead. "All pilots to launch positions." Repeat, "This is not a drill." The carrier's magnetic bays roared open, spitting blue plasma into the dark. Squadron 42 screamed into the void in perfect formation. 40 fighters, human-made, human-flown. Their thrusters carved comet trails through the chaos as the Threx fleet advanced. "Formation Echo 4. Mara's voice crackled over comms. "Keep your vectors tight. They outnumber us 20-1, but they bleed like anything else." From the blackness came the Threx vanguard. Massive, glistening constructs, shaped like blades and shells and nightmares. They fired first, streams of emerald plasma tearing through human cruisers. Explosions bloomed silently, brilliant and short-lived. "Cut them apart," Idris shouted. "For Terra!" The battle was chaos. Fighter after fighter streaked past, diving through alien fire. Ren locked onto a Threx drone, squeezed the trigger. His railgun screamed and shredded its hull. The creature inside convulsed, black blood freezing instantly. "Splash one," he yelled. "Good kill, Zephyr," came Nara's reply. "Don't get cocky." But then, something changed. A shadow fell across them. From the heart of the Threx armada emerged something vast, too vast for the sensors to quantify. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, folding and unfolding, forming new weapons by the second. Idris stared at the display. "That's no dreadnought," he said. "That's a living planet killer," Mara's pulse hammered. "Command didn't say anything about a Leviathan." "No one's ever seen one alive," Idris murmured. "Until now." The creature opened its maw, a ring of plasma and teeth, and the nearest human battleship disintegrated. "One breath, gone, evade!" Mara shouted. "All ships, scatter!" The fleet broke formation. Explosions painted the dark. Ren's canopy lit up with proximity alerts and screams over comms. He barely dodged a collapsing destroyer as it split in half. Then static. Then silence. "Vanguard to all units," Mara's voice came through, rough but steady. "Squadron 42, regroup on my mark. We're going in." "In? Into that thing?" Ren gasped. "You heard her," Nara said. "We don't run." Mara's eyes hardened as she watched the Leviathan's energy build again. Her reflection burned against the holographic glass. "If humanity dies today," she said quietly, "we make sure it remembers who killed it." "Report." Captain Mara Vale barked, her voice raw. "Shields at 12%, port cannons offline," Idris Chen replied, fingers flicking over glowing controls. "We've lost half the fleet. Command's gone dark." Mara's eyes narrowed on the holographic display. The Threx Leviathan filled the entire projection, an obsidian sphere of shifting metal and biolight miles across, devouring everything in its path. Its tendrils lashed through space, pulling wrecks into its glowing core. "Then it's just us," she said quietly. Ren's voice came through comms, trembling but alive. "I can't believe it's moving like that. It's thinking." Nara's fighter banked close beside his, her tone clipped. "Don't think about what it is. Think about where to shoot. I'm open to suggestions." "Find a mouth," she said. Ren swallowed. "It's got 10. The Leviathan exhaled a storm. Plasma arcs rippled through the void, melting what was left of the forward line. The shockwave rattled the Vanguard to its frame. Inside, lights flickered red. Crew shouted, sparks rained, smoke rose. Mara held her ground on the command deck. All pilots knew orders. "We find that creature's heart and kill it from the inside." "Inside?" Idris turned. "Mara, that thing's a planet with teeth. Then we'll carve out its stomach," she said. "It's either that or wait to be swallowed." They flew low along the creature's surface, a living ocean of black metal scales, each hundreds of meters wide. Strange pulses ran beneath like neurons firing. The entire hull breathed, Nara muttered. Feels like flying over hell. Ren's scanners flickered. Captain, I've got readings, pockets of open structure, cavities, maybe air inside. That's our way in, Mara said. Arm microfusion lances. We make our own door. The squadron formed up, weapons charging. The light from their engines painted white streaks across the creature's armor. Then at 40 beams fired at once, the hull screamed. Not a sound through vacuum, but a vibration that shivered through every ship's hull. A living thing in pain. The armor split. An opening gaped, bleeding light. Go, 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 Idris yelled. They dove through molten metal and emerged into a vast cavern that stretched for kilometers, lined with pulsing organic tissue. Glowing veins pumped luminous fluid through living tunnels. Ren stared, wide-eyed.
This thing?
It's alive on every scale, Nara frowned. Don't lose your stomach now. Mara's voice crackled over the link. Stay tight, 42. Our target's the central cortex. Follow the energy gradient. The squadron flew deeper, weaving through sinewy structures. The walls shifted around them, closing like a throat. Captain, the passage is sealing, Ren shouted. Boost thrusters, Mara ordered. Punch through before it traps us. A massive tendril shot out, colliding with 3 fighters. They exploded, light vanishing instantly. Nara screamed into comms. We just lost Vega and Torin. Mara's hands tightened on the command rail.
Keep moving.
The chamber pulsed like a star's heart. A glowing orb floated at its center, crystalline, shifting, surrounded by arcs of electrical fire. Around it, translucent forms drifted, humanoid shapes connected by cords of light. Ren's HUD zoomed in. What are those? Idris's voice came low. They look like brains. Hundreds of them. Not just brains, Mara whispered, staring at the feed. They're pilots. The realization hit like a missile. Inside the Threx Leviathan were the minds of the Dominion's fallen soldiers, harvested, fused, enslaved into one hive consciousness. The ship was their collective will. Dear God, Nara breathed. It's alive because they made it remember. Captain, energy surge. Idris shouted. It's targeting us. The orb flared, and the entire chamber detonated with psychic force. For a split second, Mara saw memories. Dying Threx worlds, burning fleets, human ships firing first. The pain of extinction, the fury of survival. Then the wave hit, every pilot screamed. Systems failed. Lights went dead. Ren's vision blurred. Flashes of his sister, Earth, oceans. Then darkness. Ren, report. Nara yelled. No response. The Leviathan's core burned brighter. Mara gritted her teeth. Idris, lock coordinates. If we die here, we take that thing's brain with us. The Vanguard powered all reactors. Warning klaxons howled. Overloaded capacitors spat light like stars. Captain, Idris said quietly, if we fire at this range, then history will remember who lit the match. Outside, the Leviathan's mouth began to open again. Inside, Squadron 42 turned toward the light. The void was alive with fire and metal. Squadron 42 dodged, weaved, and struck. But the alien fleet pressed harder, a relentless tide of destruction. Mara Jensen's ship glowed with stress-induced cracks in the armor, warning lights screaming at her with every heartbeat. Kale, status, she shouted, eyes scanning the swarming enemies. Shields at 20%. Vega's on emergency thrusters. They're tearing us apart. Mara's jaw tightened. They had already lost 2 fighters, one of them ripped apart in a flash of alien plasma. She could feel the weight of every life in the squadron pressing on her. These weren't just pilots. They were her family, her crew. Humanity's hope strapped into fragile metal shells. The largest cruiser, its damaged weapons array sparking and smoking from Mara's earlier shot, pivoted and launched a barrage of missiles. The explosions lit up the void and debris rained around them like deadly hail. Evasive maneuvers, Mara barked. The squadron twisted and flipped in perfect formation, narrowly avoiding death with reflexes honed over years of training. Still, one missile grazed Vega's wing, spinning her ship wildly. Vega! Mara screamed over the comms. I'm good, Vega gasped, voice strained, tone almost brittle with fear. Just a scratch. Mara's fingers tightened on the controls. Fear was natural, but panic would kill them. They had to be sharper than the aliens, faster, smarter, human in ways machines and aliens couldn't anticipate. Listen to me, she said calmly but firmly. We're not just going to survive. We're going to turn this around. Follow my lead and trust me. Humans don't just run, they fight. She activated the squadron's experimental maneuvers, ones no simulation had ever fully tested. Ships spun, twisted, and darted like living predators through the black sea of death. Every move was calculated risk, every moment a choice between life and oblivion. They reached the flank of the massive cruiser again. The railgun hummed, its energy building into a concentrated spear of destruction. But Mara knew one shot wouldn't be enough this time. They needed a chain reaction, a precise strike at the cruiser's core. "Kale Vega," she said, voice steady but intense. "We're going in close. Target the thrusters, disable them. I'll go for the core. Stick with me." The human fighters surged forward, dodging flares and plasma blasts. Mara's eyes burned, sweat running down her face, muscles screaming, but she pushed on. One by one, Kale and Vega struck. Thrusters exploded in brilliant orange fire, the cruiser shuddering violently. Mara's heart pounded. Now was her moment. She lined up the railgun and fired. The beam struck the heart of the cruiser. Metal screamed. Energy ripped through the hull and a massive shockwave threw the squadron outward. Mara's vision blurred, and for a moment everything seemed lost. Then, silence. The cruiser was dead. Its massive form tumbled, systems offline, a testament to human ingenuity and bravery. Mara's squadron floated among debris, panting, battered, alive. "Is everyone okay?" she asked, voice low, almost trembling. "Alive." "Somehow," Kale said, voice rough. Vega let out a shaky laugh. That was insane." Mara didn't answer immediately. Her gaze swept the horizon, and the sight made her blood run cold. Behind them, the second alien fleet had regrouped. Hundreds of ships, larger than anything humanity had faced, now bore down on them. Her stomach knotted. The cost of victory was only temporary. The fight was far from over, but she also felt something else, pride, raw and fierce. Humans had struck first and struck hard. Against impossible odds, they had shown they belonged in the void, that they could challenge even the most advanced alien armadas. Her voice, calm but firm, cut through the comms. "Squadron 42, listen up. We've won a battle, but the war is just beginning. Humans fight. We endure, and we do not surrender. Get ready. The real fight starts now." Somewhere in the darkness, a flicker of fear passed through the alien fleet's ranks. They hadn't expected humans to push back like this. They hadn't expected cunning, courage, or the stubborn refusal to die. And Mara Jensen, battered but unbroken, gripped her controls tighter, eyes fixed on the horizon. Humanity's roar had begun. The void was quieter now, but the silence was only a prelude to the storm. The second alien fleet loomed like a black wall across the stars, its sheer size a terrifying promise of annihilation. Mara Jensen's squadron drifted among the debris of the fallen cruiser, battered, bruised, but alive. "Captain," Kyle said, voice tight. "They're regrouping. Reinforcements are massive. This isn't just a battle anymore. It's a war." Mara's jaw clenched. She had known this moment would come. Every pilot had, and yet facing the full might of the enemy made the weight of responsibility almost unbearable. Lives were in her hands, lives of people who trusted her with their survival. "We've lost 2 ships, shields at critical levels, and the fleet ahead is like a tidal wave," she said softly, more to herself than anyone else. Then her gaze hardened. "But we've got something they don't. Humanity fights smarter. Humanity fights harder, and humanity never gives up." The squadron listened, breathing in her words like a lifeline. Humans weren't just surviving. They were going to turn the fight around. "Alpha formation," Mara ordered. "We split into 3 wings. Kale, take the left flank. Vega, the right. I'll lead the center straight at their command cruiser. Take out their communications if you can. Confusion is our weapon." The human fighters surged forward, engines blazing, weaving through waves of plasma fire and missiles. Every move was a calculated risk, every second a test of instinct and nerve. The alien fleet reacted immediately, sending swarms of drones and fighter escorts to intercept. Mara's heart pounded. The cockpit was a storm of alarms, flashing lights, and the smell of burnt circuitry. But she didn't falter. "Keep your focus," she barked. "Eyes on targets, trust your training, trust each other." Kale's voice came through steady despite the chaos. "Right behind you, Captain. Let's tear them apart." The center wing dove straight into the heart of the enemy formation. Mara's railgun hummed, charged with energy that could obliterate a small cruiser in one shot. She fired, piercing the alien command ship's shield. Explosions rippled across its hull, systems failing one by one. Behind her, Kale and Vega's wings struck simultaneously, hitting key vessels and crippling the enemy's coordination. Human pilots danced through the void like fire streaks, unpredictable, relentless. Every shot, every maneuver seemed impossible, yet it worked. The aliens faltered. They had never faced enemies who fought like humans. Aggressive, daring, creative, and willing to risk everything for the slightest advantage. "Captain, they're pulling back," Vega shouted almost in disbelief. Mara's heart raced. The enemy fleet staggered under human ingenuity, their formations collapsing under the relentless assault. Still, the battle was far from over. Reinforcements could arrive at any moment, and the human fighters were exhausted, their ship's scarred systems damaged. Suddenly, an alarm screamed. A massive alien dreadnought emerged from the shadows, larger and deadlier than anything they had faced. Its energy cannons glowed like molten suns, and every fighter in the squadron knew one hit could obliterate them all. "Focus on the thrusters," Mara commanded. "We take it down or we all die." Squadron 42 tightened their formation, weaving around plasma bursts, missiles, and deadly energy beams. They targeted weak points, exploiting every flaw in the massive vessel's armor. It was a dance on the edge of death, precise, terrifying, brilliant. Kale's voice was strained, almost breaking. I can't hold much longer, Captain." "You're stronger than you think, Kale. Don't stop." "Humanity depends on you," Mara shouted. With a final desperate push, the squadron struck the dreadnought's engines simultaneously. Explosions rippled across the massive hull. The ship shuddered, systems failing, and then with a deafening roar it erupted into fire and debris, tumbling into the void. For a heartbeat, the silence was absolute. Then cheers erupted across the comms, voices trembling with relief, fear, and triumph. Mara exhaled, heart still racing, gaze fixed on the horizon. The enemy fleet had been pushed back, at least for now. Humanity had struck and humanity had survived. But deep inside, Mara knew the fight was far from over. The galaxy would remember this day. They had shown that humans were not just fighters. They were stormbringers, relentless, unpredictable, and unyielding. "Squadron 42, she said quietly, almost reverently. "Today we survived. Tomorrow we conquer. Humanity rules the skies." Her squadron's response was fierce, unified. "For humanity!" And in the darkness of space, for the first time that day, the humans didn't just survive. They roared. The battlefield was littered with debris, drifting like silent witnesses to the carnage. Fires burned on the crippled human ships, and the void itself seemed to hum with tension. Mara Jensen's fighter weaved through wreckage, searching for her squadron, her heart pounding with every heartbeat. "Status report," she barked. Kale's voice came, shaky but determined. 3 fighters lost. Vega's barely holding. Shields failing on 2 of us. The fleet. They're regrouping again. Mara clenched her jaw. They had survived impossible odds, but every victory had a price. Lives lost, comrades gone, and still the alien armada loomed, a shadow threatening to crush them completely. She took a deep breath. "Listen to me, Squadron 42, we've come too far to fall now. We fight for every life lost today. We fight for humanity. We fight for the worlds that look up at the stars and hope someone will protect them. We do not surrender." Her words resonated through the comms, strengthening weary hearts. Humans were tired, but they were unbroken. The alien fleet surged forward, deploying their dreadnoughts and heavy cruisers like a storm rolling across the void. Squadron 42's fighters were outnumbered, outgunned, but not outmatched in courage. "Target their artillery arrays," Mara commanded. "Kyle, Vega, follow my lead. Precision strikes only. One wrong move and we die." The squadron dove into the fray, darting through enemy fire with a mix of skill, instinct, and sheer determination. Mara's eyes locked onto a massive cruiser, its shields glowing like molten steel. She fired her railgun, tearing a hole in its hull, but the vessel responded immediately, hurling waves of energy in retaliation. Kale's ship took the brunt of a plasma blast, spinning violently. "I'm hit, I'm holding, barely," he shouted. "Vega, cover him," Mara ordered. The 2 fighters danced through the storm, taking hits, firing relentlessly, refusing to back down. Amid the chaos, Mara saw an opening, a critical weak point on the largest dreadnought, its core exposed after a failed maneuver. She had seconds, maybe less. The shot would be suicidal. The recoil might tear her ship apart, but hesitation wasn't an option. "Hold on, Kale, Vega, watch me," she muttered. Gripping the controls tighter, the railgun charged. Mara aimed, calculated the trajectory, and fired. The beam struck the dreadnought's core, detonating in a cascade of fire and shrapnel. The shockwave threw Mara's fighter backward, systems flickering, hull groaning under stress. "Captain!" Kale cried. You did it!" Mara barely had time to respond before a second enemy dreadnought collided with debris, sending energy beams slicing toward her. She twisted violently, evading a direct hit by inches. The cost of victory was stark. Her shields were gone, engines faltering, and one wrong move would mean death. From the corner of her eye, she saw Vega's ship brace for a collision with a smaller cruiser. Without hesitation, Mara vectored close, creating a human shield with her own ship. Vega's fighter barely escaped, shields failing but alive. Mara's fighter took the hit. Sparks flew, systems overloaded, the cockpit vibrating with the impact. She gritted her teeth, blood pounding in her ears. Sacrifice was part of this war, part of what it meant to be human. Even as the enemy retreated, regrouping for another assault, Mara's squadron had survived, but at a cost. 2 fighters lost, 1 gravely damaged, and every pilot carrying the weight of those they couldn't save. Kyle's voice broke through the comms, trembling but fierce. "Captain, we did it. Against all odds, we're still here." Mara exhaled, her body aching, mind racing. She knew the enemy would return, stronger and smarter, but humanity had shown something undeniable. Courage, cunning, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for survival. "Squadron 42, she said, voice hoarse but unwavering. "Today we bled. We lost friends. But we proved one thing. Humans don't just survive, they endure. And as long as we stand, humanity rules the skies." Somewhere deep in the void, a voice, alien, cold, and calculating, whispered over the sensors. "These humans. They fight like gods. They are not like any foe we have faced." Mara tightened her grip on the controls. She had no time for fear, no room for doubt. The fight was far from over, but she felt something rising deep in her chest. Hope, fierce and unyielding. For every loss, for every scar, humanity had carved a place among the stars. And Mara Jensen, battered, exhausted, and alive, knew one truth above all. They would never surrender. The void was a silent witness to chaos. The remnants of the alien fleet lingered like dark shadows, battered but not defeated. Squadron 42 hovered among floating wreckage, engines sputtering, shields flickering, but determination burning brighter than any weapon. "Captain," Kyle said, voice strained, "they're forming up for a counterstrike. If we don't act fast, we'll be cut to pieces." Mara Jensen's eyes scanned the horizon. The enemy armada, massive and relentless, had underestimated humans once, and now they would learn that defiance was humanity's strongest weapon. "Listen up. Everyone," Mara's voice was steady, sharp, inspiring. "We've survived impossible odds. We've lost comrades, bled, and barely stayed in the fight. But this ends now. The fleet thinks they can break us. They're wrong. Humanity rules the skies." Her squadron responded with fierce, unified shouts. Fear had no place here. Hope, courage, and raw defiance were the weapons now. The plan was audacious. A coordinated strike directly at the alien command nexus, the heart of the fleet. Destroy it, and the rest of the armada would crumble. Fail, and humanity would be wiped from this sector of space. "Alpha formation, weapons hot," Mara ordered. "Kyle, Vega, stick close. Every shot counts. One mistake and we're gone. But we will not fail. Not today." They surged forward, engines blazing, weaving through a hailstorm of plasma and missiles. The alien fleet reacted immediately, sending swarms of drones and elite fighters to intercept. Each second was life or death, and every pilot's skill was pushed beyond the edge. Mara locked onto the command nexus, a massive armored vessel thrumming with energy. She activated the railgun, her fingers steady despite exhaustion and adrenaline. One shot could cripple it, but only if it hit precisely. "Kale, take out the flanking cruisers," she shouted. "Vega, focus on their fighter screens. I'll handle the core." The squadron split flawlessly, each human fighter striking like a lightning bolt. Kale's cannons tore through the alien cruiser's shields. Vega's lasers shredded waves of drones, and Mara focused all her will on the command nexus. The railgun charged. Sparks ran along the edges of Mara's cockpit, alarms screaming, but she did not flinch. Her target was locked, her aim precise. She fired. The beam struck the Nexus's heart, detonating in a blinding flash of fire and metal. The shockwave rocked the void, sending enemy ships spinning in every direction. Mara's fighter rattled violently but held. The alien fleet staggered, disoriented and leaderless. Chaos erupted among their ranks. Fighters collided, cruisers exploded, and plasma fire spiraled out of control. Humanity's defiance had broken the spine of the invaders. Kale's voice rang through the comms, triumphant. "They're falling back." "Captain, we did it!" Mara exhaled, a wave of relief washing over her. But she didn't celebrate yet. Vega's voice came next, trembling but alive. We survived. The fleet's retreating." For the first time that day, the humans allowed themselves a breath. They had fought against overwhelming odds, sacrificed everything, and now the impossible had been achieved. Humanity had not just survived, they had triumphed. Mara scanned the wreckage around them. Ships destroyed, comrades lost, scars etched into every hull, but they were alive. Against a galaxy that had doubted them. Against enemies that had underestimated them. Humanity had carved their place among the stars. Her voice came over the comms, steady and resolute. "Squadron 42, remember this day. Remember what we've done. Humanity fights, humanity endures, and humanity rules the skies. We've faced death and stared it down, and now the stars themselves will remember our names." Kale's response was fierce, unified. "For humanity," Vega added, breathless but triumphant, "for every world out there counting on us." The void around them was quiet again, but this time it was a silence of victory. The alien armada had been shattered, its command destroyed, its forces scattered. Humanity had proven something unarguable. Courage, ingenuity, and the unbreakable human spirit could defy even the impossible. Mara Jensen, battered, exhausted, and alive, looked across the horizon. The stars glittered like diamonds against the black, and for the first time she allowed herself a smile. They had survived the century's greatest battle, and they had done so on their own terms. Humanity had not just entered the fight, they had roared, claimed, and dominated, and the galaxy had no choice but to recognize it. The void was calm now, a fragile peace after the storm of fire and steel. Wreckage floated silently, drifting like tombstones among the stars. Squadron 42 hovered together, battered ships trembling, engines smoking, but their spirits unbroken. Mara Jensen exhaled slowly, leaning back in her seat. The adrenaline still surged, her hands shaking from hours of combat, but the fear had finally faded. They had done the impossible. Against overwhelming odds, they had survived, and they had won. Kale's voice came over the comm, soft but full of awe. "Captain, did we really do it? They're gone. All of them." Mara's gaze swept the horizon. The alien armada had retreated, shattered, leaderless. They would live to fight another day, yes, but humanity had made their mark. "Yes," she said quietly, voice steady. "We did it. Against everything we survived, we fought. We won." Vega's laugh was breathless, tinged with disbelief and relief. "I can't believe it. I thought we'd die out here, but we're alive." "All of us? Well, most of us." Mara gave a small, wry smile. "We've lost brave souls, Vega. They'll be remembered. Every life, every sacrifice, every maneuver. It all mattered. Humanity stands because they gave us the chance." The squadron fell silent for a moment, each pilot reflecting on the cost of victory. The void was vast, unforgiving, and now littered with evidence of both human ingenuity and human loss. But in that silence, a quiet pride grew, a pride that could never be extinguished. Mara activated the comms again. "This is Captain Mara Jensen of Squadron 42. Report all survivors. Begin emergency repairs and head for Rally Point Delta 9. Humanity has proven it can survive anything the stars throw at us, and we're not stopping here." One by one, voices responded, weary but triumphant. The human spirit was alive in every word, every breath. Even in the face of annihilation they had endured. Kale's voice, quieter now, almost reverent, cut through the static. "Captain, we did more than survive. We've proven something today. Humanity, and we're not just capable, we're unstoppable." Mara's eyes softened, thinking of the faces she had seen in battle. The pilots, the engineers, the families waiting on distant worlds. All of them had believed in humanity's resilience, and now they had witnessed it. "Yes, Kale," she said. "We are unstoppable. And the galaxy will know it." The ships began to move in formation, engines sparking but steady, weaving through the wreckage of the battlefield. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, a canvas for new possibilities, new victories, and new horizons. Mara allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. They had faced death, stared it in the eye, and refused to bow. They had seen their comrades fall, and yet they had carried their memory into victory. Humanity had not just survived, they had roared, claimed the skies, and left an indelible mark on the galaxy. "Look," Mara said softly, pointing to a distant star cluster. "That's where we go next. There's more out there, and humans will be ready. We've proven it today. Nothing can stop us when we fight together." Vega's voice trembled with emotion. "We really are the rulers of the skies." Mara's smile widened, tempered with exhaustion but full of certainty. "Yes, Vega, we are. And we always will be." For the first time in hours, she allowed herself to relax. The void was still vast, still dangerous, but the humans who had fought, survived, and triumphed in the century's greatest space battle now held the stars in their hands. Somewhere far away, other human settlements would hear the story of bravery, sacrifice, and defiance. And somewhere, alien observers would take note, realizing that they had underestimated humanity at their peril. Mara Jensen looked out at the endless black, her heart steady, her mind clear. The battle was over, but humanity's story had only begun. The stars shone brighter now, reflecting the spirit of a species that refused to surrender, and in the silence of the void, a single truth resonated louder than any explosion. Humans ruled the skies.